they did not mention any root, what I want to do, I just want to use trial and error method to find out the roots. In my first iteration, see here, I got x0 equal to 3 and x1 equal to 4. And of f of x3 is minus 21 and f of x1 is 16. In my second iteration, I have x1 that is 4 and x2 is 3.5676. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on roots of equation. I'm your Revati ma'am from the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So dear student, before going to start my today's session, let me to recall the topic what I have discussed in my previous session. So dear student, in my previous session, I started with Newton-Raphson Method. So this method is also used to solve some roots of an equation. And what is the formula? That is x1 equal to x0 minus f of x0 divided by f dash of x0. So, which are the values I want? That is, I want to have x0. Then I must have f of x0. Then what about f dash of x0? So, I want to differentiate the given equation. That means after performing differentiation, whatever the equation I'm going to get, that is nothing but my f dash of x0. Anyway, in my previous session, we discussed some of the problems under this method. Along with that, we discussed secant method and algorithm. How to find out the roots of an given equation using secant method. Once again, in my today's session, I'm going to deal few more solved example under this secant method. So dear student, instead of wasting much of time, let's directly moving on to the third problem, that is third question. Find a root of an equation, that is f of x equal to square root of 12 using secant method. So in the question, they just mentioned equation. And what's the equation? Square root of 12. Now, I want to find out the roots. Before that, I just want to simplify this equation. I have x equal to square root of 12. Now, squaring on both the sides. Okay, squaring on both the sides, I'll get x square equal to 12. Now, I just want to simplify this equation. When I simplify this equation, f of x equal to square root, that is x to the power 2 minus 12. Okay. So, if I simplify this equation, I'll get x to the power 2 minus 12. Now, in the question, they did not given any root. If they did not mention any root, what I want to do? I just want to use trial and error method to find out the roots. So what I will do, I'll start substituting x value equal to 0. When x equal to 0, I'll get minus 12. Next time, x equal to 1, it is minus 11. Now, x equal to 2. X equal to 2, how much? It is 4 minus 12. How much? Minus 8. When x equal to 3. 2 to the power, that is 3 to the power 2. 3 into 3, 9 minus 12. It is minus 3. Now, x equal to 4. 4 to the power 2, it is 16. 16 minus 12, it is 4. Now, dear student, I'm going to stop the iteration because here I got one negative and one positive. So, no need to continue the substitution further. Now, what I will do, I'll write when x naught equal to 3, my f of x naught equal to minus 3. When x1 equal to 4, my f of x1 is also 4. Okay, now I got x0 as well as x1. So see here, in my first iteration, I got x0 as 3 and x1 as 4. Then f of 3 is minus 3 and f of 4 is 4. Now, this is my second method formula. Second method formula. Okay, I want x0 and I want x1 and f of x1 and f of x0. So I have all the values. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to substitute. So I'm going to substitute. After substituting, I'm going to get the answer x2 equal to 3.4286. Now what I want to do, I just want to find the f of x2 and I'm going to substitute the value. And when I take f of x2, I'm going to get minus 0.2446. Okay, now I got x2 and f of x2. In my third iteration, my x1 is nothing but 4 and x2 is my previous value. Okay, x1 is, I'll take as it is and x2 is my previous value. Now see here, my f of x1 is 4. Okay, so answer is 4. And if I take f of x2, I'm going to have the answer minus 0.2449. And when I substitute these values in this formula, I'll get the answer, that is x3 equal to 3.4615. Okay, now what I want to do, I just want to find out f of x3. And when I find out f of x3, I'll get minus 0.0178. Okay, now for the next iteration, this x2 is nothing but my x3. And whatever the f of x2 I have, that is my f of x3. And whatever present value, that is 3.415, that is my x4. And this is my f of x4. See here, I got this one and this one. After substituting, I'll get this one, and after substituting, I'll get this one. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to substitute all these values in this equation. So, see here, this is my formula, and I'm going to substitute x3, x2, f of x2 and f of x3. And I'll get the answer 3.4641. Okay, and when I take f of x4, I'll get the answer minus 0.001. Okay, which is equal to, that is approximate to 0. So that I'm going to stop the iteration. Now I'm going to write the final conclusion that approximate root of the equation x square minus 12 equal to 0 using secant method. And if I consider this one, okay, this is the exact root. So this is the exact root. Now I have my fourth problem, that is find the root of an equation f of cube root of 48 using secant method. So here I'm not having any roots. So what I want to do, I want to find out the root. Before that, I just want to simplify this equation. So what I will do, let f of x equal to cube root of 48. And when I take cube root of both sides, that means cubing both sides, I'll get x cube equal to 48. And when I simplify, I'll get f of x equal to x cube minus 48. Now I'm going to start substituting x value. So x naught equal to 0. When my x naught equal to 0, I got minus 48. And when my x1 equal to 1, I got minus 47. When my x naught is 2, then I got minus 40. And my x naught is 3, I got minus 21. And when my x naught, that's nothing but x value, is 4, that is nothing but I got the answer 16. See here, when my x equal to 3, I got minus 21. And when my x equal to 4, I got 16. Now, roots are nothing but x naught is 3 and x1 equal to 4. And f of x naught equal to minus 21 and f of x1 equal to 16. Now, dear student, in my first iteration, see here, I got x naught equal to 3 and x1 equal to 4. And of f of x3 is minus 21 and f of x1 is 16. This is my secant method formula. Now I'm going to substitute all the values together and I'm going to get the answer, that is 3.5676. Now what I want to do, I just want to find out f of x2. And I'll substitute all the things in my equation and I'm going to get the answer minus 2.5936. Now, in my second iteration, I have x1, that is 4, and x2 is 3.5676. See here, when my f of 4, then answer is 4. When my f of x2 is 3.5676, the answer is minus 2.5936. Now I have this secant method formula. After substituting the values, I'll get the answer 3.6279. And when I substitute in my f of x3, I'll get 3.6279, that is minus 0.2516. For the next iteration, what is the value? x3 and x2 I'm going to consider. So what is x2? That is 3.5676. And what is this one, x3? That is 3.6279. So this is the previous iteration answer. See, previous iteration answer. Okay, now this is the previous iteration answer. And if I take f of x2, I'll get minus 2.5936. And if I take f of x3, then I'll get minus 0.2513. And when I substitute all these values in this formula, I'll get the answer 3.6344. Now, if I take or if I find the f of x4, then I'll get minus 0.0047. And for the next iteration, I'm going to consider x3 and x4. Okay, and in this formula, I'm going to modify, that is x5. I'm going to find out x5. To find out x5, I'm going to consider only x3 and x4. So I have x3 as well as I have x4. So I have both the values, x3 as well as x4. Now, when I take f of x3, I'll get minus 0.2513 and f of x4, that is minus 0.0047. And when I substitute all the values, I'll get the answer, that is 3.6342. And if I take f of x5, I'll get the answer 0. So which is equal to 0. So that I'm going to stop the iteration. Now I'm going to write the conclusion that the approximate root of the equation x cube minus 48 equal to 0, that is 3.6342. Now I have another solved question under this method, that is find a root of an equation f of x equal to x cube plus 2x square plus x minus 1 using secant method, and I don't have any root. So what I want to do, I want to find the root by using trial and error method. That is nothing but start substituting the value 0, 1, 2, 3. That is x equal to 0, x equal to 1, 2, 3 unless I'm going to get the root. So this is my f of x. Now I'm going to start substituting when x equal to 0. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 minus 1, you'll get minus 1. Answer is minus 1. Now when x equal to 1, so 1 cube minus 2, 1 cube plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 minus 1, which is equal to 4 minus 1, it is 3. So when my x equal to 1, I got 3. Therefore, x naught equal to 0, that is f of x naught equal to minus 1, and x1 equal to 1, then f of x1 equal to 3. Now I got the root. In my first iteration, see here, I have 0 and I have 1. And when I take f of 0, I have minus 1. And when I find out f of x1, then I have 3. And I'm going to substitute these values in this formula. After substituting this one, I'll get the answer 0.25. Now I just want to find out f of x2. After substituting this value in this equation, I'm getting minus 0.6094. Now, if I consider iteration 2, okay, whatever the present value I have, okay, that is my x2, and whatever my previous x1 value I have, that is my x1 as it is. So dear student, now f of x1 is 3 and f of x2 is minus 0.60094. That is nothing but 0.6094. Now I have x1, x2, f of x1 and f of x2. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to substitute the values here. After substituting, I'll get 0.3766. And if I take f of x3, then I'm going to get the answer minus 0.2863. Now, I want to consider only x2 and x3. In my next iteration, x2 and I have x3. And see here, I have f of x2 and I have f of x3. Once again, I'm going to substitute all the values in this formula. Now, after substituting, I'll get the answer 0.4888. Now, I'm going to find out f of x4. So, when I take f of x4, I'll get 0.0835. For the next iteration, I'm going to consider x4 and x3. For next iteration, I'm going to consider x3 and x4. See here, I have x3 and I have x4. Fine. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to find out f of x3 and f of x4. I got f of x3 as well as f of x4. Now I'm going to substitute all these values in this formula. After substituting, I'm going to get the answer 0.4635. And if I take f of x5, I'll get the answer minus 0.0073. For the next iteration, I'm going to consider x4 and x5. Okay, now I have x4 and I have x5. Now I have f of x4 and I have f of x5. And I'm going to substitute all the values in this formula. Okay, after substituting, I'm going to get the answer that is 0.4655. Now I'm going to find the f of x6. Okay, and when I substitute this value in the equation, I'll get the answer minus 0.00002, which is approximate to 0. When I reach 0 value, I'm going to stop the iteration and I'm going to write the conclusion that approximate root of the equation x cube plus 2x square plus x minus 1 is 0, which is 0 using secant method is 0.4655. So see here 0.4655. Now I'm going to stop the iteration. So dear student, in my today's session, I started with secant method and I solved some of the problems. Anyway, dear student, in my today's session, you got more information about secant method. Anyway, let's meet in the next session with the new unit, that is solving simultaneous linear equation. Until that, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.